Hello, my name's Allison Ziegler, and I'm your host today for Princess Interrupted, the podcast. And today we're going to be talking about that sense of failure that eats away at you when you're in the pursuit of doing something big. I felt really called to share on this from the heart. I'm a brand owner. I make calendars, journals. I'm a life coach. I've been doing this for the past 5 years. This vision of a business came to me in what felt like a calling. It felt like this soul urge to do something bigger with my life. It no longer felt like the old way that I had been doing things was even possible anymore. And it was this really uncomfortable sensation of my old life didn't fit anymore. That was what got me into this work. I took some bold, inspired action back when I first started my brand. I quit the job I didn't want, and it resulted in a dark night of the soul. And when that happened, I was so lost and I felt like such a failure on my journey. I felt like I was never going to be happy again. It just felt like life was beating me up for even attempting to go for it. And I know that I'm not unique in having this experience. In personal development, there can be this desire to paint this picture that everything's perfect. What I really want people to take away from this episode and from this message is just that it's okay if in the unfolding it feels like everything is unraveling. And I want to talk specifically to you today if you're someone who struggles with anxiety, if you're someone who it feels like every morning it is a mental battle to get yourself back into the zone. You have roommates you don't want, you're stuck in a relationship that doesn't feel good, the job market isn't what you want it to be, any attempts you make to get out just feels like it's just suffocating you. You're who I'm talking to today, and I understand these emotions and these feelings more than I could even relay. And I share these experiences not to talk about my past, but just to let you know I deeply understand and I deeply get what this feels like. I've struggled for so long with the fear of failure, and beyond that, this sense of taking action and then looking for evidence that it's not working so that my ego can continue to hold me back. This is something that's incredibly common. We've talked about the ego. We've talked about your intuition. It can be so hard to follow your intuition when you've been taught your entire life that it's not safe. The people around you do have such a big influence in what you're going to believe is possible for you. In the pursuit of my dream of becoming a creative business owner, writing my book, making money and traveling the world and doing things that feel true to my soul and feel like they have a deeper purpose in humanity, feel like I'm leaving a legacy as opposed to hiding in a conference room that I don't even want to be in. It's been the most challenging thing I've ever decided to do in my life. I thought at the start of my journey that things would just unfold because I was doing what I was meant to be doing. You would be guided on the path. And in a lot of ways, it felt like that at first. But it can feel hard to sustain momentum on following your dreams when you've been doing this for so long and you're seeing limited results or things just aren't unfolding the way that you want. Maybe you deeply have a desire for a soulmate and you're going on dates and maybe they're getting better, but it's still not here. And you're like, I'm in my 30s. Like, why is he not here yet? Or maybe you've been craving a new job and it's just not going anywhere, where it feels like the universe is punishing you or keeping you stuck where you're at. It's up to you to break past those limitations. The way that I describe how this feels is it feels like there's this box that's standing in between you and the reality that you want to be living in. And that box is created by the way that you're viewing yourself. The box is created by listening to the beliefs and the thoughts of people who aren't living the life that you want. So many people are spectators and gossipers and are just there to say negative things about people who fail or people who try and have so many opinions about the way that people should be living their lives. But guess what? It doesn't matter. And the sooner you let go of what those people are saying, which are just fleeting thoughts. They don't have an original thought about themselves, so they are more consumed in talking negatively about you and telling you all the reasons that it won't work, but you don't need to listen to that. And I know what it feels like when you're scrolling and you suddenly see something and it makes your heart start beating and it wants to beat out of your chest and you're like, I thought that I was past this. And I want to tell you that it's okay. And it is all part of the journey, and you are not on this path and you are not in pursuit of a better life because it's going to just be easy. You are in pursuit of a better life because it is what is going to make life fulfilling and worthwhile. It is what is going to create the future that you can't stop thinking about. You may have this desire to escape your current circumstances, but that's not what's going to get you to your dream life. If your only motivational factor is getting away from the life that you have now, you will always be running from yourself. And I want to really say this with such love. Anything that you are ashamed of is holding you back. And it is not holding you back because you should feel worse about it. It's holding you back because it's a part of yourself that you haven't accepted and you haven't loved, and you will always be running away from yourself, and it will never feel like enough. And until you feel like enough, it will never be enough. When you create that sense within yourself where I've got me, you know what? If they see this part of me and reject it, I'm okay because it's the truth of who I am. And if anything is removed from my path, it will be replaced by something better, by something more aligned, by something that reflects the truth of who I am willing to be. There are so many parts of my life right now that are really difficult and challenging to face. When I tell people the truth about what's going on, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, you'll get through this. And I'm like, I'm not asking for sympathy or pity. I am healing from the ground up. I am facing the deepest wounds that I have so that I can heal them and I can create the life that my children's children will benefit from, so that I can leave the legacy, so that I can see my planners in Nordstrom, I can see my stickers in Target, I can create and actually be free and liberated from the things that I used to have shame around. And I want to talk about shame for a second. This is such a powerful emotion, and not in a good way. It's just this embodiment that you're somehow unlovable or unworthy because of some external circumstance. For a long time in my life, this was reflected by credit card debt. I felt so unworthy of having experiences in life. I didn't feel like I was worth traveling. I felt like I would make a terrible partner. Who would want to be with me based on that? These were the stories I was telling myself about my circumstances. It wasn't until I hired a financial coach and I actually got honest with him, and he was able to sit there and just be with me and help me create a plan so that I could get out of this situation. That was how I healed it. Facing these shameful experiences head on and inviting other people into your world to help you heal them is how you get past it. This is my office that I've repainted, if you've been following along. And I had to completely reclaim this space. The room that I'm in used to reflect a completely different story and a completely different reality. If you'd watched 2 videos back, it was a hot pink room and it was abrasive. And I felt stuck and fixed in that reality. I wasn't able to move the furniture. It felt like the reality of how things were. In my bedroom, there was this piece of drywall that had been ripped off, and I put the bed in front of it, but it was still there. And when I would FaceTime, you could see it. So I would have to hold the camera angle a certain way so that no one would see what I was actually experiencing. And it wasn't until I was willing to move the camera and show this essentially wound on the wall. And someone offered to help and said, you can patch that and then paint it. But if you paint that wall, you have to paint the whole room. And I started to think more expansively about what was possible. And I started to say, you know what? I actually really want to paint what used to be my sister's room and turn it into an office craft studio. And I was even willing to just paint the one wall. And I was just willing to have some sort of secret area that I could record for myself. But as I got started and I started to see the healing effect that this reshaping the narrative and changing the way that things looked and actually sitting with it and healing it, I realized I didn't want that. I didn't want an optical illusion of looking good. I wanted to feel better. And I didn't want to half-ass this. If I was going to do this, I wanted it to look and feel completely different. It was this experience where if I would have tried to do it on my own, it would have been impossible, but I was willing to open up about the negative feelings I had about the current situation, and in doing so, it allowed the energy to shift, and it allowed it to become possible to shift because I let other people in. There's an added layer of vulnerability and shame. I didn't come from this upper class family, and there was a split within my psyche growing up. My parents have been divorced since I was 3 years old, and I would go back and forth between houses. My dad's house was a mini mansion. It was a beautiful house on a hill, 5 bedrooms plus, and beautiful swimming pool in the back. Very nice house. My mom's house was a townhouse, and I was conditioned to believe there was something wrong with it. My mom's also a bit of a collector, and there's clothes and things just thrown astray. And this was something I had a great deal of shame around growing up. And it was a part of myself that I've neglected. And my entire early part of my life, my only desire was to run away. To move to a big city, abandon where I came from, fall in love, find a man to just, infiltrate and become part of his family and just kind of deny where I had come from. Unfortunately, or fortunately for me, that was not the way my path went. And I found myself just repeating karmic cycle after karmic cycle, going out, having success in the big city, and then falling and landing back at home. This happened to me in 2019 when I started my business. It was so humbling because it was like everything that I was trying so hard to run from and build away from just was never enough to take away the pain that I initially was always running from. It never felt like enough because it wasn't enough. Because it was like I didn't feel like I was enough because of where I came from. One of the ways I tried to cope with this was manifesting away the undesired reality. Okay, well, we didn't have enough money for things. I'm going to make so much money that this is never a problem again. And I just wished I could just manifest away the problems. I feel unworthy and unlovable within myself. Let me just find a partner who loves me so that I can finally believe it about myself. But until you address and you heal these underlying lies that you're telling yourselves, you're going to find proof of it being true in your reality. Until you actually heal the limiting belief of you not being lovable, you will find evidence of being unlovable everywhere you go. Until you heal the shame and say, you know what, where I come from is not reflective of where I'm going, you will find yourself on your knees needing to accept the way that things are. And acceptance isn't this sense of it's just the way it is, I'm powerless. It's this sense of I love myself in spite of these things that I used to hate about myself. I love myself for those qualities and recognizing the good. I recognize the good in this because you know what? It's teaching me unconditional love. It's teaching me patience. As I've started to open up to friends about what I'm facing, there's people who understand me on a deeper level. Sometimes I'll tell people, yeah, my mom's a hoarder, and I'll get scared looks because these are people who don't come from a home like that. Sometimes I'll tell people and they'll say, you know what? I thought I was the only one. That's who I'm talking to right now. Are those people who have maybe felt like there's something wrong with them because of an undesired circumstance that is out of your control. But just know, you're not only not alone, but the more that you start to allow yourself to integrate these unfavorable parts of yourself, you're going to find other people who have faced similar experiences. And we put on these masks and we put on these facades and we hold the camera and we try to angle it in a way that makes us look good. But in reality, we're just hiding from the people who are truly meant to find us. And for so long, I've been so scared to own these things that have plagued me and been so painful and challenging. And I realize it's my responsibility to share it. It's my responsibility to be brave. And it's my responsibility to help you see yourself in the journey that I'm sharing with you. Because it is possible to change. Your future is based on the thoughts that you think in the present, not anything that you come from. It's not the past. There are no limits to what you're able to create. It's all contingent on what you're willing to believe about yourself. And it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. I don't care if you've been trying to do this for the last 10 years and it hasn't worked. Today is not yesterday. Your future is not created by your past. Your future is created by the decisions you make from this point moving forward. And you truly can decide to make any moment a fresh, blank slate. This moment right now, wherever you're listening to this or if you're watching this, you can decide from the moment that you get up from your chair or you stop doing what you're doing, you are going to show up as that next level version of yourself. You are going to be the person who makes things happen. You get to decide the ending. You get to decide the outcome. There are so many things within life that are outside of your control, but your perspective is always within your control. You can always choose to make a situation for your good. You can choose to use what you've been given and turn it into gold and use it to just create the life that you truly desire and you've always been meant for. It takes courage to face everything that you have and say, you know what? I'm going to use all of me in the pursuit of what I want. If you're dating, it takes courage to be vulnerable. If it's not the life that you want moving forward, It takes courage if you're at a job to leave and say, I deserve better, and to believe it. It takes courage to show your face on the internet every day and maybe get no likes, or maybe your story views are going down, or maybe you launch an offer and it doesn't sell. It takes courage to believe in yourself more than the world that is trying to break you down. Do you know how many people want you to not believe in yourself? Do you really want that to be the voices that you're listening to? Or do you want to give more power and more weight to the voices who want to see you thrive, to the people who say you changed my life, to that future love of your life who says, I am so grateful and I love every piece of you and you're not broken and I've prayed my entire life to meet someone like you. But that can't happen unless you're willing to face these uncomfortable truths, and unless you're really willing to become 100% authentically you. And the most beautiful part is then when you stop trying to control the way that you're perceived, the way that people see you, every element of you that you're showing to the world, it allows so much more flow. You stop trying to control these things, and the most crazy ironic part is it allows you to be perceived better. We have these subconscious fears about being unworthy, and by trying to hide them, they're actually what's energetically at the forefront. That's what's being magnetized, is this negative belief that you have about yourself. And it's just time to write a new narrative. It's time to believe a new story. It's time to become that next level version of yourself who actually enjoys your life, who feels this sense of gratitude in the morning, not because you're supposed to journal on it or you're supposed to feel it, but because it's truly there. Because you actually have these moments. The best sensation that I've ever found in my life is this sense of there is nowhere I would rather be and nothing else I would rather be doing right now. And I'd even add there's no one else I'd rather be with. And those feelings exist. It's just believing in your desires more than your unfavorable circumstances. It's allowing yourself to be you and to be undefined by the external. Work on the internal and the external will shift. It will meet you there. There are two kinds of motivators: away motivators and toward motivators. An away motivator is when you're trying to manifest away from something. Let's say you don't like your upbringing. You don't like where you came from. You don't want to repeat the cycles of your family. You are trying to go away from that. That is an away motivator, and that has a distinct energetic push. You think about magnets. That's one charge. Another charge that I believe is way more powerful is a toward motivator, and this is creating a vision for your life that is so much bigger than you and so delicious and so dreamy and so soul on fire, intrinsically lit up. And that's when the magnet's facing towards what you want and it is just clicked into place, and you can't help but be drawn out of bed by your vision. You can't help but just be magnetically attracted to these things that are for you. And it's this sense of magic and peace and this sense of feeling like you're in the right place at the right time. That is alignment, and that is my goal, is to get you away from this away motivation and to get you towards, and to shift your perspective and shift your focus, to remind you who you are and to wake you up and have you say, like, you know what? I am ready for the life that I'm worthy of. I'm ready to release my limitations. I'm ready to finally believe in myself, and I'm ready to give my life the story it deserves. And I'm ready to wake up differently. And that's my goal for you. There's an anecdote that I learned in one of my coaching trainings. There's someone going for a walk and he sees his neighbor, he waves to his neighbor, he sees a dog lying on the porch. He goes up, says, "Oh, hello, like what's wrong with the dog? Why is he whining? What's wrong?" He says, "Oh, he's laying on a nail." He's like, "Well, why doesn't he move?" He says, "It's too painful." So many people are dealing with the pain of just accepting these painful circumstances as the way life is, instead of moving, getting up off the nail, letting it hurt, letting it ooze, and then letting it heal, and no longer facing that circumstance. I hope you have the courage today to take some inspired action in the direction of the life that you're truly desiring. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you're looking to go deeper, if you really want to just say, you know what, this woke me up, I'm ready to go deeper, set up a consultation with me. I have free discovery calls, and I would love to talk more about private coaching offerings. Make sure that you are subscribed. I'm going to include links below. I also have a guide designed to help you rewrite the narrative that you've been telling yourself, to help you create a new reality for yourself this upcoming year. Make this the time that changes everything. we're not going back. I love you so much. Thank you so much for listening.